When a patient first comes to Duke, we have a lot of damage to undo. Invariably, a patient with a malignant brain tumor, especially the kind that Tug had, a glioblastoma multiforme, is always told that they are basically terminal, that they will get some kind of surgery or biopsy, they may get radiation therapy and some chemotherapy, and then they're going to die. The most important thing we do for new patients and all of our established patients is give them a healthy infusion of hope. Hope is the critical foundation on which we build everything that we offer at Duke.
There are very, very few cures of this tumor, and with the best so-called standard of care treatment, the median survival of patients after diagnosis is only 60 weeks.
The Tug McGraw Foundation really started with my relationship with Tug McGraw, of course. His lasting wish, his dying wish, was really to help others who would follow him to have a better quality of life as they also were battling a brain tumor. And out of that tragedy emerged, I think, a triumph for generations of people who will follow, which is the Tug McGraw Foundation. The foundation is designed to really improve the quality of life for patients and their families with brain tumors, primarily by conducting research into all different kinds of areas: fatigue, memory loss, family disruptions as a function of this diagnosis.
The one thing that I think that is really great about the Brain Tumor Center, and particularly the Tug McGraw Foundation, is that we are treating cancer, but then also providing care for an entire family that suffers when a patient has a brain tumor.
Unfortunately, many aspects of the therapy cause the patient's body to react in a negative way. And so what happens is patients go from being very functional to the end of their treatment being unable to do daily chores around the house, gardening, walking upstairs, or really quite taxing.
The fatigue that comes from radiation was something that, until you've been through it, you just don't understand. The first day that it really hit me was several weeks into treatment, and the best I can describe it is that I felt like my bones just turned to steel, and that my muscles weren't strong enough to hold them up any longer. And within a matter of minutes, I had to find somewhere to lay down and was asleep for 4 or 5 hours.
Now, as we start seeing increased survivals in glioblastoma, there still are some long-term effects, some negative effects of the toxicity of some of these treatments. As each year goes by, the patients and their families can see sometimes a decline in mental status, the beginning of dementia-type illness, sometimes problems with muscle function not being fully correct, sometimes problems with receiving sensation correctly. The Tug McGraw Foundation is funding us at very significant levels to address quality of life issues now that we are getting some long-term survivors. One of our young investigators has shown that exercise is actually very beneficial in these surviving patients.
I'm known as the exercise guy within the program because I look at the role of exercise capacity as well as exercise training interventions in primary brain tumor patients. And so we have patients doing what's called the cardiopulmonary exercise test, which is the exact same test as Lance Armstrong used to do before riding in the Tour de France. And so essentially we treat our patients like an athlete.
Many of the patients have depression, which is very understandable facing an illness of this magnitude. And we're diagnosing that very early, and of course there are many, many effective treatments now for depression.
Most of the treatments they receive, they're not in control. I think with something like exercise, it puts them in control, whereas they can be the ones who decide whether to exercise or not, or how much effort they're going to put in. And so I think it really reverses that role a little bit. And I think that's really why, that's one of the aspects why it has a really positive effects on our patients.
The Tug McGraw Research Center at the Preston Robert Tisch Brain Tumor Center at Duke, which is geared to conduct research in all of these different areas. So that's the first major effort that the foundation is doing. But a second thing that they're doing at Duke is to play a major role in a program we call the Collegiate Athlete Pre-Medical Experience, a program that targets female varsity athletes at Duke who are clearly on a path to go to medical school. And that philosophy of training the next generation of not only physicians, but of physician leaders, and of helping young women reach their goals.
It was really unique from other programs they had at the school because nothing else would leave you alone in the room with a patient. And this really gave you a wonderful experience of what it's actually like to be a doctor.
The other thing that they created was the Tim McGraw Medical Education Scholarship, which is awarded to one CAPE graduate female athlete and is support $25,000 a year for 4 years for her to go to Duke Medical School.
Well, when I was 6, my mom had breast cancer. Just realizing that somebody before me going into medicine and doing the right kind of research allows me to have my mom with me today. I really appreciated that and thought that, wow, it's a great thing I could do this for somebody else.
And I can say honestly that without that support, I don't see how she could have gone to Duke Med School.
Hannah was an amazing, amazing little girl. She was very vivacious and she lived every minute of her life to the maximum. And we went in for a routine MRI and we went into clinic to have our clinic appointment, and the social worker walked into the room. And you always know something's wrong when the social worker walks in. And they told us that they had found a new spot on Hannah's brain. And so we discussed various treatment options. After a round of chemotherapy and a couple of weeks to do the wait and see, it was determined that Hannah's tumours had spread to the point where they'd completely enclosed her brain and completely coated her spine. So we knew in very late August that Hannah probably was not going to survive. And so it was the easiest and the hardest decision of our life. It was easy because we knew what was exactly correct for Hannah, and she had a lovely quality of life even during her treatment. But once we knew that there really wasn't anything that we could do, we determined that we would come home with hospice care. And we made that decision on Friday. Hannah came home Monday. She spent the week here at home with us. My family flew in from Australia. Her friends from school, her teachers and members of our church all came over and said, "See you later," to Hannah. And then quietly on Saturday evening, Hannah passed away on September the 3rd. And it was very peaceful and very quiet. And the most incredible thing was that through to the end, Hannah was graceful and she was courageous and she had dignity. And that's a really important thing to us, is that as long as we were treating Hannah and she was okay in terms of having all the normal things a kid can have, then it was okay to continue. But the minute that we knew that that quality of life was going to be compromised and that we knew that we would just be prolonging the inevitable and that the treatment would be more difficult for Hannah, then we knew the time had come.
A lot of funders are only interested in finding a cure, and we too here at the Brain Tumor Center are definitely interested in finding a cure. That would be wonderful if we didn't have a job, but we do have a job, a very important job, and it's remembering that patients will be diagnosed today with a brain tumor and they will need our help.
Brain tumor patients typically don't live that long, so people that really haven't thought that quality of life was important. I actually beg to differ with this, and I think that quality of life is even more important.
I'm so blessed that I have the quality of life that I do with this diagnosis, but there are many patients that are fighting a much bigger fight.
For Tug, once he learned that he still had hope, all of his vistas, all of his approach to life, I think, just blossomed open.
We've just finished a trial for the Genentech company in San Francisco, which had a 65% response rate in relapsed recurrent malignant brain tumors like the type that Tug McGraw had. That's just unheard of. Most of the time we'll only get 15 to 20% responses in our trials.
It's a wonderful gift and a wonderful tribute that for Tug McGraw to give to us, because we will be able to help patients because of that, and we will be able to go on then maybe and to find funding on the national level.
The Tug McGraw money has just been absolutely vital to the things we've wanted to do, because without that money, this research just wouldn't get done. It's as simple as that.
I'm more optimistic now than I've been in 35 years of doing research and developing new treatments on these tumors.
Whether you survive or not, if you face it with the hope that you can do well, that you can live longer, that you can see your wife or your husband for a longer period of time, see your children grow up, meet milestones, that's all anybody ever asks for. And I think that that changes one's battle frame set in any kind of war that you're in, even with a brain tumor.